Before we get today's show started, be sure to hit that big red button and subscribe to New Orleans Saints Now. It's your one-stop shop for everything New Orleans Saints all season long. And hey, the more subs we get, the more videos we get to put out. And the best part about it, it is absolutely free. So be sure to hit that big red button and stay in the know on your New Orleans Saints. Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome into New Orleans Saints Now. I am your host, RC Maxfield, and it was cut day around the NFL as every NFL roster had to trim their rosters down from 80 to 53. Obviously, the New Orleans Saints had to do that as well. Let's get into all of the cuts for the Saints from August 31st, 2021. The first one on there, Devonta Freeman, is the one that really stands out to me in the sense of came into camp, was really talking highly of the organization as a whole, but in the end, really just couldn't find a place on this roster overall. And really what this came down to was I think Latavius Murray actually getting his act together a little bit and securing that RB2 spot. Now, there was some rumors early on in camp that maybe Devonta Freeman could push Latavius Murray out. Didn't really believe it when it was happening. Obviously, it didn't come to fruition now as Devonta Freeman will be looking for another team. Now, when you look at the rest of this list, Eric Burrell and some other camp bodies don't really stand out in terms of guys that really had a real chance to make the roster. Devonta Freeman, again, was the one that really stood out to me in this 5-list scenario. Now, the other ones that we have here in the next group of 5 is RJ McIntosh was the one that kind of stood out in terms of, well, you just got on the team, bro, not too long ago. And he didn't end up making it. Again, a guy that played in 2019, didn't play in 2020 due to really just complications in terms of COVID and worrying about that and everything. But I thought he could potentially make the defensive line and be one of those depth pieces, but in the end, couldn't do it. Ended up not making the roster, and now he'll be looking for another home as well since he hasn't played since 2019. Now, you look along those other lines, I think Quan Baker, again, you cut a fullback. You don't really need a fullback in today's NFL unless you're the New York Giants, apparently, where you need 2. But hey, let's not call them out on this video. So no big surprises other than maybe RJ McIntosh, who was kind of on that roster bubble to begin with anyway. But let me know. Most surprising roster cut for the New Orleans Saints. Again, Devonta Freeman right now is probably the biggest one so far for me because there was a lot of talk in camp that he could potentially make the roster. But in the end, did not make it. Latavius Murray secures that RB2 role behind Alvin Kamara going into 2021. Trevor Siemian got cut. Now, this is unsurprising to most. Know that Ian Book made the roster for the New Orleans Saints. Obviously, Jameis Winston will be QB1 in Week 1 against the Green Bay Packers. Site to be determined due to the devastation down in New Orleans and in the Bayou due to Hurricane Ida. Thoughts and prayers to everybody down in Louisiana. But Trevor Siemian was a long shot to make this roster because New Orleans Saints did want to keep Ian Book because of the draft capital they invested in him, and he showed flashes during camp as well as during the preseason, so really no need to carry 4 quarterbacks into Week 1. Maybe Trevor Siemian pops up somewhere else in the NFL, but it will not be in New Orleans this season. Next group of 5 we've got is, well, there's Chris Hogan. Another guy is just kind of signed recently, and you thought maybe he had a chance to be on the roster and fill the void left by some of the wide receivers that were hurt, but Draquan Smith is back in action. Marquez Callaway has a breakout. Michael Thomas was placed on the PUP, so maybe Chris Hogan would make the roster. Alas, he doesn't. In 2020, he had 14 catches for 118 yards and a long reception of 27 yards. In the end, the former professional lacrosse player might go back to playing lacrosse. He will not be playing in New Orleans this season. Maybe on the practice squad, though. They've talked about that, but nothing set in stone there, so maybe he's got an offset chance to come back. But right now, doesn't look too great for the former lacrosse pro and Chris Hogan, who, again, you thought maybe would have a chance to make the roster, but alas doesn't, even with the New Orleans Saints and all of their wide receiver struggles in terms of health. Now, Madden style this for me. Rate the Saints' current roster. Use a scale of 1 to 100. This is difficult for me. I was never great at understanding how they rated Madden teams. I knew that the Lions were usually the worst team in the league. But for me, I'll probably give the Saints in that 79-80 range. Now, this can go sky high once the health comes back of Michael Thomas, as well as if Jameis Winston produces at a high level in his first year as quarterback for the New Orleans Saints. But right now I'll go in that 79-80 range, but I think that could go closer to that 84 range when the season is all said and done. Next group of cuts we've got here in the group of 5. And again, a lot of guys that came in to be, roster fillers for the preseason and everything like that. Jordan Mills, I thought maybe could make the roster in the long run. Didn't hang on to it. Damian Square as well on that defensive line. Albert Huggins. But in the end, guys didn't make it. They were just indeed camp bodies, and they will be looking for a new home. But don't be surprised if a few of these guys that were cut end up on the New Orleans Saints practice squad for 2021.